Hello everyone, this is the Punisher Mythos, and in this video we're going to explore the Ray Stevenson version of Frank Castle. This is the first of a series dedicated towards finding the most accurate Punisher, obviously, when compared to the comics. Now, the criteria used for this is as follows. Generally, the looks or his physicality, his mentality or motivation, the showcasing of his military prowess, and lastly, his origin story. I will use a basic score system to determine the value of each category, be from 1 to 10. Now, before we go down the list, I will give a quick synopsis of the film to make sure that I don't miss any key elements. I will use a synopsis from marvel.fandom.com. Infamous vigilante anti-hero Frank Castle is 6 years into his vengeance-driven zeal as a Punisher when he brutally assaults a Beat the Rat party for notorious mob boss Gaetano Cesare. During the course of the massacre, he hideously disfigures overeager gangster Billy Rosati and murders a mafia lackey who turns out to be an undercover FBI agent. Agent Paul Budiansky, the ex-partner of the undercover Fed, joins the NYPD's Punisher Task Force to help bring Castle to justice once and for all. A facially mutilated Rosati recovers from his run-in with the Punisher with revenge on his mind and recruits a massive army of psychotic killers, gangbangers, and mobsters under his new alias Jigsaw. Distraught that he has now become the very evil he swore to battle, Castle is content to hang up his guns and quit the justice business for good. However, plans quickly change once he learns that Jigsaw has kidnapped the surviving wife and child of the dead federal agent. Forced back into the war, the Punisher now has to face off against Jigsaw's formidable army in order to save the lives of an innocent family his actions put in the firing line. Now, the first thing we will explore is the looks and physicality of Ray Stevenson's Punisher. In this movie, his height is 6'4", his irises are blue, his hair is black, and his style of hair is slicked back. There is some trivia that explains the inspiration behind the look in the movie, and the inspiration comes from the Punisher Volume 7 comic under the Max imprint, which is personally my favorite set of Punisher comics because they encapsulate the gritty and ominous perspective that Frank Castle possesses since the untimely death of his wife and children. This is evidenced through the abrasive language and the hyper-realistic illustrations of the people, the environment of New York City, and how could I forget, the violence. When compared to the comics, Ray Stevenson Punisher is 75% correct in that, as mentioned before, he has blue eyes, his hair is black, and his hair is slicked back. Also, Ray Stevenson's Punisher has that infamous scowl that is seen commonly on Frank Castle's face in numerous comics. The only difference is that he is 6'4", while in the comics he is 6'1". The score I would give Ray's Punisher on his look is an 8, and the physicality is a 6. When it comes to his mentality, it isn't shown as much here. Well, not in depth in my opinion, in that he does what the Punisher does, which is killing criminals in the most brutal and creative ways. This movie seems to be for those that already knows about Punisher, and for the most part, why he became the Punisher. There is a scene where Frank Castle has a flashback of his family dying, and this is commonly seen in the comics multiple times because it does a couple of things. It reminds himself as well as the audience the why behind his war against criminals. The score towards showing his mentality in this movie compared to the comics is about a 6. I will give Lexi Alexander, the director of this movie, some slack because it is difficult to really take a journey into the unique mind of Punisher and pretty much consolidate it into a movie. Thus, the movie is straight to the point, action-packed, and even though it is too cartoonish, there are tons of gore. Now, his military prowess is shown in a way that is absolutely entertaining. It is shown in a way that most civilians would imagine how a Marine and Special Forces soldier would engage targets and threats. He uses all sorts of weaponry throughout the movie that would be expected since he is the Punisher. He uses an array of semi-automatic and automatic weapons, a crossbow pistol, combat knives, and a notable mention, a grenade launcher. And wait a minute, how could I forget his bare hands? He is a United States Marine and a Special Forces instructor. They forgot to mention specifically the special operations groups that he was a part of, such as the Navy SEALs and the Australian Special Air Service Regiment. I know some may think that I'm nitpicking, however, I have to do this for the sake of the video, which is to find the most accurate Frank Castle. The score for his military prowess would be a 7 out of 10. Lastly, we will talk about the origin of the Punisher and how well it is depicted in this movie. It is depicted accurately in that it is eerily similar to the comic, from the hair, the setting, everything. As what was mentioned earlier, the death of his family was seen in a flashback, and I would say for this movie it is sufficient to get the point across to new viewers who may not know the undying motive behind what he does. I would give this a 10 out of 10. To conclude, here are some notable mentions that would actually increase the overall score of Ray Stevenson's Punisher. In the movie, there is an ode to Frank Castle's Catholic roots when he visits the church and briefly converses with an old friend. As you well know, before Frank was a Marine, his life goal was to be a Catholic priest. Moreover, besides Frank, the common allies such as Detective Soap and David Microchip Lieberman look and act like their comic book depictions. The main villain, Jigsaw, is depicted very well in this movie, and personally, I feel that true fans would agree with me and that it is the best version. Also, I have to talk about something that would go against the final score as well when it comes to accuracy. One of the biggest flaws are found in the scene where Detective Soap is going over Frank Castle's file with Budiansky. Again, they mentioned, or shown rather, that he was a Marine and specifically stated that Frank Castle was a Special Forces instructor. Yet, if you pay attention to the picture of Frank Castle, he is donning the dress blues uniform that is worn by the enlisted Marines. Also, from the looks of it, he seems to be a 3 hash mark gunny, which is still a respectable rank in the Marine Corps and not uncommon for a Marine to honorably discharge or retire with that rank. Nevertheless, he should be donning the uniform that Marine officers wear since he got out of the Marine Corps as a captain. So when putting everything together, I would say the overall score for Ray Stevenson's Punisher is a 7 out of 10. Thank you guys, I hope you liked the video. Again, this will be a series and I will be covering the other versions of Frank Castle in the same way. Like, share, comment, and subscribe. I'm out.